welcome to Cheapskate. My name is Cameron and this video is about multiscales. Are they good? Should you get one? And if you do want to get one, how can you test it out? When I wanted to do it, I went to both my local music shops and neither of them had a multiscale. In fact, I went to a couple of other music shops and they didn't have any multiscales either. Now that I've gone and made my own one, of course, now they've got them in stock. Great. Anyway, I guess it was a couple of years ago, so it's probably post-pandemic and people didn't have a lot of stock that wasn't fast selling, I guess. So this particular guitar, you can see it's a headless guitar and it's a multiscale. Now there are different kinds of multiscale. When I say different kinds, there's different ways of doing the same thing. Oh, what is a multiscale? Okay, multiscale is you have two different scale lengths on the one guitar. So you know, like a Fender has a 25.5-inch scale length and a Gibson has a 24.75 scale length. When I say those brands, that's what they typically are. They do have other scale lengths available as well. But on this particular guitar, I've got the Fender scale length on the top string and the Gibson scale length on the bottom string, and the other strings just sort of fall in between there. They graduate up and down. That does mean that your nut, in this case I've got a 0 fret, but that also has to be angled, and your bridge you'll find normally is more angled as well, because it has to match that scale length, right? So you've got a longer scale length here, so it has to be further back. So that's what it is. Now there's different ways of doing it. So you can have different amounts. So in this case, I actually use millimeters. So 630 millimeters here, 650. If you wanted, you go 655 or whatever you wanted to do. You can make it baritone here and normal here if you want to do something like that. So you can do different things with it. But the other thing, the difference I really want to talk about here is which fret you have as your, what's called the neutral fret, or your parallel fret, or your straight fret, whatever you want to call it. So in this case I chose it to be the 12th fret. So the 12th fret on this guitar, if I just hold it this way, you can see it's pretty much straight up and down. And then sometimes these are called fan frets, which is I think it's a copywritten name, so the person who designed them actually called them fan frets. So people don't say fan fret, they say multiscale, but you can see, if you're looking at the frets, if you imagine this is straight, this one goes out this side, this one goes out this side, like a fan. So, yeah, and the further away they get from the center, the more angled they are. Now, what happens is, or what I found is, because I have an injury on my hand, I've got missing and torn ligaments in my thumb, it's harder for me to play bar chords, and it took me to play an F-shaped bar chord, like this, where all the notes rang out and I could play it fast enough to do a song. It took me 1.5 years of daily practice. And I used to go to bed at night and my thumb would ache all night. So for me, looking for a way to play bar chords more easily is very important. So what I've found with this multiscale is E-shaped bar chords are fine. It doesn't matter really where I play them on the neck. It's kind of comfortable. But A-shaped bar chords, which I also use a lot, different. So if I'm playing a C here, I'll keep my finger a little bit further back so you can see it. But my finger isn't really matching the frets, and I have my thumb when I'm playing A-shaped bar chords, so get around the back here, sort of well away. It's not like behind my first finger. It's actually way behind. And the reason I do that is because I need to get leverage on this finger. I need to get leverage going like that. So I have to have the thumb back here to get the leverage like that, right? I can't do it any other way or my thumb collapses. So if I was doing a B flat, quite difficult, and I have to push down hard at this end with my fingers because I'm so far from the fret, and if I get tired I have trouble keeping it crisp. So in that respect, this particular fan fret design isn't good for me. But if you're just playing, you know, open chords, it's fine, doesn't make a difference. It's only really for me the A-shaped bar chord that gives me grief. If you're playing triads, anywhere on the neck, not a problem. Lead stuff, not a problem. Alright, so let's say, now some people, it's got to be said, they say they play guitars like this and they don't notice any difference. So for some people it's not a problem. I also have small hands. My hands are, yeah, quite small. So anyway, what I've done is what you can do if you're not sure whether a multiscale is right for you or not, is you get, this is actually a template for, actually it was the guitar I was just showing you. It's a neck plate that I used for that. But I've also done this with, you can do it with cardboard, a piece of cardboard, and then what you do is you put it on top of your guitar neck with a couple of rubber bands, just put it around it and just have it sit on top of your guitar neck and just practice and see if the frets are in a good position for you or not. So on this particular one, what I've done, I've got the measurements off the internet, and I'll show you an internet page. Hopefully you're looking at it now. You're looking. Here we are on the illusory information website, which is done by Luiteo Matola. Don't know if it's a man or woman's name, but anyway, apologise if I pronounced it incorrectly. So let's scroll down the site. There's lots of really good information on this site and all sorts of different calculators. Is this the one we want? Nope. This is it. Multiple scale length or fret position calculator. So bass side we said 635mm, and the treble side is going to be 625mm, and enter fret number of the non-slanted fret. In this case it's the nut or the 0 fret, so I'm going to put 0. If it was the 12th fret or the 5th fret or whatever, you'd put that fret in there. Calculate, and as you can see, because the nut is straight, it's the same number on both sides, which is 0, because that's where you start from. And then the numbers are different for each side the rest of the way. So on the bass string, if I pull that up here, you would just follow the string line and put these mark at these distances from the nut under the string line of the E, thick E string, and then your treble E string you would mark these under the line that string would travel in, and then you join the dots up and you get your slanted frets, or sloped frets, or whatever you want to say. Now the saddle here, this appears to be, so I'm glad this happened because I can warn you about it, this appears to be set up for a nylon string guitar or classical instruments, where ordinarily the saddle is like completely flat, although you do, if you want to do it right, you've got to make an allowance for the G string and make it a bit longer. But if you're just doing it like most guitars you buy from a shop, the saddle's completely straight on a classical, whereas on an acoustic steel string the bass side is normally longer than the treble side, and we would actually have to make it even longer. We will, because I'm making steel string, I will have to make this longer on both sides actually, but more so on the bass side. So just watch that, that whatever calculator you use won't necessarily spit out 100% correct figure. You've got to kind of double check it with another resource. So you want to get at least a couple of these sites and check them out. It may be that the author here explains it in all of this text and probably gives you formulas to work it out if you need to, and I will need to get formulas to work that out. I've selected the nut to be the straight one in this case instead of the 12th fret, and so now we're not really getting a fan. They're all just going to slope increasingly this way, and more and more as you get further down. Now where it slopes a lot down this end, I don't care, because if I'm doing anything past the 12th fret, it's generally going to be lead work where the fretting doesn't really matter too much, the changing of the angle. But up here now, instead of sloping back this way, making it harder for me to do A-shaped chords, the first fret, if you can tell or not, is actually sloping slightly this way. So it should, in theory now, for me to do say a B flat like that, it should actually be easier that the frets, because by the time we get to the 3rd fret here, its sloping is a fair bit now, and it's actually kind of matching my finger. Yeah. So this, in theory, especially when I get down here to do a C, should actually be easier for me to play than a standard guitar. Now playing my E-shaped chords, doesn't look like it's going to be a problem for me, although I think if I get down to say a D here, where I'm on the 10th fret here with this finger, looks like it might be a little bit more difficult. I'm not sure, but maybe it will be. But if it makes all my A-shaped chords, especially up here, easier to play, then I think it's going to be a good trade-off. So I'm going to build it. I'm currently building a headless acoustic guitar, which I think could be a world first. I have seen on the internet advertised from China headless acoustic silent guitar, which is code for we tried to make a headless acoustic and we stuffed it up because we didn't understand how guitars work, and so we're selling it as a silent guitar. But I do understand how guitars work, so I've designed it in such a way as it won't deaden the soundboard, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work. I'm actually using a fiberglass just because I want to try it out. Fiberglass top and back and wooden sides, which is weird, I know, but everything I build is weird. So headless acoustic, and it's going to have this thing. Now I only just did this today just to test it out. I thought, yeah, this is going to work really well. I really want this. Now that's it. That's the video. Hopefully that gives you a bit of insight into multiscales, or are they easier to play or not, and what you need to look at to decide whether it's what you want or not. And if you can't get what you want from a shop and you can't order it, like there's nobody's making it, like a zero there, or I think the ones with a zero here are fairly common, but if no one's making it the way you want, get in touch with a luthier, and quite possibly they'll build one for you, and you probably get a better guitar at a lower price anyway. Well, probably not lower price than you would get from, say, China, but you'll get a better guitar than you get from China, and you probably get exactly what you want from a luthier. So that's the other way of looking at it. Now, before we go, this guitar here, which I built for the Great Guitar Build-Off. Did I? Was this for the Great Guitar Build-Off? Yeah, it was. The last one they had, which was 23, or yeah, for 23. Anyway, I promised that I would do a video. I did one on the neck inlays, but I promised I'd do one on the movable pickup, which I have, by the way, fixed up now. I promised to do a video on that, and I promised I'd do a video on the headless tuning system. Yes, this is headless tuning system, which is internal. That's here, and you can see it from the back there as well. So I promised I'd do a video on that, and I haven't. So I'm sorry about that. I will get videos out to you soon about those couple of bits if you were waiting for them. I started putting them together, and my ADHD kicked in because I had like 200 hours of video on this guitar somehow, and I started trying to make a video just on the tuning system, and it was going for over an hour, and I thought I can't. So I kind of like phased out and just dropped it. So I'm just going to instead going to make a much shorter video on them. And yeah, but I had to basically also I had to redo it. I had to carve underneath this and lower the plate and then put the felt back on, because yeah, in the last video, if you saw the other video of this guitar, I took the felt off to try and lower the pickup because the strings were actually buzzing on the pickup, and it still wasn't low enough, and then it was sticking to the plate and all that. So I just took it all out and redid the whole thing, and it all works now. But yes, but there are problems with this guitar, with the tuning system. It's hard to tune, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend the system, but I will show it to you so you know if you're making your own systems, it'll probably help you out, like what to do and not to do, I hope. Anyway, thanks for watching the video, and I hope you enjoy playing your guitar. You can't have just one guitar. You've got to have more than one. I bet you have more than one. If you have more than one, tell me how many guitars you've got in the comments. I want to find out who's got the most. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gave 2 to my son, so they don't count. So I've got 5 because he's got 2. And I'm making another one, so I'm going to have 6. How many have you got? See you later.